We're awkwardly paused and waiting until everybody comes online, in case you think we're frozen. Icebreaker. All right, I see the numbers are going up, Alex. This is exciting.
Yay.
It's like when the lottery, when they have those little balls in the thing and they pop up and they, all right. Ooh, look, we got lots of people. I hope they stay.
Please stay.
Please stay. Don't leave. All right. Well, should we go? Hi, Madeline. All right. Well, welcome everybody. We'll jump right in. Alex.
Sounds good. Thank you for joining us, everyone, for Finding Your Voice, Leveraging a Professional and Personal Brand with Roy Sexton and myself. So we are going to quickly introduce ourselves here. Roy, I'll let you go first.
Sure. And before I do, I want to thank Charlie Lawler, who hates that picture of me because I got my hair cut right afterward. And he's like, you need to get another picture without that hippie hair. Hi, Charlie. And Madeline Lowry, who invited us to do this. They may be living in regret right now that they did that, but they were both kind enough to extend the invitation. We're really appreciative of that. My name is Roy Sexton. I'm Director of Marketing at Clark Hill. I'm reminding you throughout the presentation wearing this shirt. I've been there a little over 3 years. I worked at Kerr Russell before that and Trot Law even before that. I was in healthcare for about a decade. And then started my career at Deloitte Consulting. This isn't a humble brag, but just so you know, another credential, I am president-elect for the International Board of the Legal Marketing Association. Yes, there is such a thing. There are more of us beyond Alex and myself, about 35 to 4,000 people actually worldwide that do what we do and are part of that association. So I'm really honored to be the incoming leader for that association, and hopefully your Michigan boy will do you proud during my tenure next year when I'm the official president. So Alex, why don't you introduce you?
Of course. So my name is Alexandra France. I go by Alex. I have been in the legal industry for almost 10 years. I started as a legal assistant in investment products and derivatives at Sidley Austin. And from there, I moved to a boutique IP firm for a couple of years, working in patent prosecution. And then I came to Clark Hill about 5 years ago, and I took a job in HR. So I was doing professional development and recruiting. And then I moved into the role of a marketing coordinator, and recently into my current title, which is communications specialist. So I work a lot with social media and DEI, and yeah, that's me.
And Alex is a real champ. I've come to really appreciate and lean on her in many ways, and I've really been thrilled to see her growth in this role. So kudos to you. Congratulations on your promotion. We'll just keep patting each other on the back, Alex, and see if people can stand it. Thanks.
All right. So moving into the core of this presentation here. So what you see is a lovely Venn diagram. On the left, we have Roy Sexton, and on the right, we have myself. The first thing you see under each of our names is our title. So this is who we are or what we do professionally. And then under that is our personal interests. And so the diagram shows in the center what we have in common. This is how meaningful and impactful connections are made on social media. So this is an example of how you can incorporate your personal brand, i.e. your interests, into your professional social experience. Social media, even when used in a professional capacity, is still social. It's based on that social interaction. It's the basis of its entire existence. So utilizing that is key.
And I think that's such a great point about how the personal affects the professional. And these are, we used to call them icebreakers. I'm of a certain age. When you go to a cocktail party and you had to figure out how to approach someone and have a conversation, you can see Alex shows restraint in her decor and her life. I have absolutely no restraint whatsoever. And sometimes people are like, my gosh, what is all that behind you? Matt Hinkle, who was helping us on the tech side, was like, you sure have a lot of stuff. And he's right. And I love it. And it also is often a point of interest where people, when we're waiting on the Zoom, people come on and they go, wow, are you watching Mandalorian? I love that. We have one of our attorneys, one who is not easy to work with, and always kind of put the fear of God in me. No, it's not Charlie. And I love Charlie. And that attorney came on and said, oh, you love the Mandalorian and Boba Fett? I go, yeah, I sure do. He goes, my college roommate actually is the showrunner and wrote for that. I'm so excited about the show myself. And suddenly we'd connected and bonded, and our working relationship has benefited greatly from that. I'll also pick on Alex for a minute. We've always been close. Alex has a very dry, reserved sense of humor and is one of the funniest people once she lets you see that side of her, but otherwise she's absolute polish. I am not. But one night, we were on Instagram of all things, and we got to chatting, and I found out that Alex is a movie buff beyond all movie buffs, to the point that she knows all of the same references to 30s and 40s black and white movies that my mother ingrained in me in my upbringing. And then we went back and forth, what was like an hour or two, and Alex finally realized, I think it's 2 a.m. there in Michigan where you should go to sleep. And we were just comparing all these titles and all these pieces of film. And our work life got that much richer and better. So we share this at the front end to say, don't be afraid to share who you are. We have introvert there in the middle. No one believes I'm an introvert. I don't think they believe Alex is one either. It's about where you get your energy. And if you get your energy by being by yourself and reading and watching movies, chances are you're an introvert. If you drain when you're in a crowd of people, doesn't mean you're not social. It just means you process differently than the rest of us. So when Alex and I realized that common ground as well, again, our work enriched. And I love social media for that purpose. We call it asynchronous communication because it doesn't require me to have an immediate conversation. It's not a phone call. It's not someone coming at me, talking at me when they want me to respond. I can respond in my own time. And for an introvert, it's a great way to build relationships and to create a long game with people. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. So.
Okay, so next we'll be talking about finding your personal brand and how to use it. But before we do that, we're going to talk about why social media is important. So social platforms allow you to increase your presence, right? You're putting yourself out there on the internet for the world to see, basically. This allows you to drive traffic back to your website or your social channels. The promotion on social is low cost or free in a lot of circumstances. It's free self-promotion, but it has a very high impact. You're reaching a ton of people. And this is something that is unique to using social media because of the large audience base. Social media is also key in today's climate in terms of maintaining relationships, and that's both on a personal and professional level. It's also great because you can use it to track data. So you can see your numbers in real time, and that allows you to gauge how successful, how you're approaching what you're posting, the content that you're posting, and that will allow you to become even more successful in how you continue to use social media. It also allows you to engage with cultural and community activities. And then there's the rule of 3. So I will let Roy kind of expand on some of these, especially the rule of 3.
Yeah, I'll start there and I'll go backwards on a couple of these. So rule of 3 is something I think I stole from Nancy Merland or someone else in our legal marketing space that I learned from. And that's a side note I'll make in a bit. Find those people that you find interesting and influential and speak to your soul and learn from them, see what they're sharing. There are a lot of thought leaders out there on the topic of branding. And rule of 3 is simply that when you're about to do something like what Alex and I are doing right now, you might have seen I snuck my cell phone up a couple times. We promote this before. Madeline, thank you for helping promote it as well. We've got a nice turnout today. Hi, 28 people, which is great, especially as Zoom fatigued as we all are. So you promote it in advance, at least once, maybe multiple times. Please join us for this. Then the second touch point in the rule of 3 is take a picture. If you're in person at an event, hopefully one day we will be again, go up, have a friend take a picture of you before you speak at the dais. Don't have someone take a picture of you at the back of the room so you're a little tiny dot. Take a picture of yourself and say, hey, I was so proud and pleased to give this presentation today. And then if there's a recording, if there's follow-on, Matt, is there a recording? We can share after the fact and say, if you missed this, check this out. That helps the organization you're promoting, that helps yourself, that helps people realize you're a thought leader in a particular topic. So at least 3 bites at the apple. Alex and I were already putting this material together, and that was pretty much Alex who put all this material together. Thank you, Alex. But we have 3 opportunities to promote and expand the awareness. We could have just done this and reached all of you who are attending, and we're grateful that you're here. But in promoting it, we're also letting hundreds upon thousands of people know who might not be able to make it today. Alex and Roy speak on this. I'd be curious to maybe invite them to something else. So if you're out there trying to get your name out, present, and don't be disappointed if you have 400 or 3 people show up. If you've promoted it before, during, and after, there will be a recording. Thank you, Matt. Before, during, and after. That's the rule of 3. The other couple pieces I want to highlight here, maintaining relationships. I'll talk about this again in a minute, but this is a great glue to keep connected with people between the times you can be together. And given what we've all lived through the last 2 years, social media is crucial in that. Don't be shy. Don't think you don't have time for it. If you had time to go golfing with somebody, if you had time for a 3-hour breakfast, you have time in pandemic to spend 10, 15 minutes a week on social media. That sounded shaming. I didn't mean it to. And then data tracking. Some of our attorneys, particularly ones of a certain age, and I don't want to sound ageist, they're like, my clients aren't on social media. Baloney, they are. They'll say, well, my clients, I meet them at the club. I meet them at the here. Well, sure you do, and that's good, but they're on social media as well. So for those attorneys that might be agnostic, or if you yourself are being agnostic, look at the data. We reached 4.8 million people on our social media channels last year, Clark Hill, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter combined. 4.8 million. And I'll have attorneys come up to me and say, oh, I want to spend $15,000 on this sponsorship that'll reach 150 people. We barely spent any money last year and we reached 4.8 million people. So bring that data forward for those attorneys, because at the end of the day, this isn't my money I'm spending as an in-house marketer, it's the attorneys. The more money we spend during the course of the year, the less they make when they divide it up at the end of the year, the partnership. So I'd rather not spend money that we don't have to if we can reach people on these channels. So use data to make your case if anybody's giving you a hard time, or if you yourself are doubting the value. And finally, this culture and community involvement. Many of you are on boards, you're volunteering, you're doing things of that nature. Don't be afraid to share that. I sometimes see attorneys say, well, I'm only going to share something about my practice that my core audience will be interested in. Well, they're also interested in what you're doing. I work on the Ronald McDonald House board. I'm on the Mosaic Youth Theater board. Alex volunteers in her community. She gets tapped by the Chicago Bar Association, this bar association, others around the country to give presentations like this. So people knowing that she's giving back makes other people want to work with her. So don't be afraid to share that about yourself.
Okay, so next we have finding a strategy that works for you. And Roy, I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, it's really important to take stock of who you are. But before you do that, I'd follow these steps. Take time for yourself, step away. You can't have a clear sense of who you are if you're responding to the emails, the phone mail, the text, as I am just now. You got to be in the moment. And then find that hook that breaks the ice. For me, it's behind me. It's my theater life. It's my volunteering that makes people want to talk to me. They're very interested now that I'm the legal marketing president. I'm, again, not a brag, but I have that in my headline on LinkedIn because that makes people want to approach me because they think I'm more important than I am. I'm not. Build your network slowly and purposefully. Don't feel like you have to have 30,000 followers out the gate. And if you don't, it's a failure. Sometimes you just need to reach the right 12 or 15 people. The right 12 or 15 people are going to make or break your career more than 30,000 are. So go through the moment of reflection. What schools have you attended? What boards have you been on? What church groups are you in? What sports teams have you played on? All of those people are on LinkedIn. Make your list, find them. There are tools. You can sync your Outlook to LinkedIn and it can tell you who all you're connected with. It's on LinkedIn. Go through and connect with them, and don't think it can only be I'm only connected with the clients or I'm only connected with other lawyers, because there are a lot of people out there you don't know could be a client one day. You know, I have found some of my best business connections are through community theater, because those people like me have some disposable time in the evenings, and I've been in plays with chief operating officers, chief financial officers, people who then go, what law firm do you work for? Could you tell me more about that? Because we're rehearsing every night together. Leverage social media to be the glue between face-to-face interactions. I mentioned this a bit ago. Alex and I haven't seen each other in 2 years, not in person. Now we work together, we're on Zoom every day, but the thing that's keeping us connected personally is our Instagram and our chatting and our trading jokes back and forth. So whatever it is that is you, that keeps you connected with people, social media can help you invaluably, and have fun with it. But don't skip the face-to-face interactions. My tendency is I never want to leave the house again. I have to overcome that, especially when we went through, because the reason Alex and I have a relationship is because we've been together, and social media is helping maintain that while we can't be together. So make sure that when we can safely have dinner, have breakfast, do those things with people that are the ties that bind. But again, social media helps you. It also can help you with somebody you've never met before. When I got started in the Legal Marketing Association, there's a slide or two ago with a bunch of pictures of me hobnobbing. I was intimidated, scared, and I didn't think anybody liked me. So the first couple years, I started obsessively friending everybody on every platform, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. They all got to know me in that space. So when I showed up in person, they knew about my dog, they knew about my husband, they knew about the things that were going on in my life, and the conversation was that much easier. And I got out of my own head and made really strong relationships. And then this part's so important to me: share, reciprocate, celebrate. If you're on social media or somebody is, it's because you want to be seen. Don't get high school like insecure and self-conscious about that. Like stuff, share stuff, comment. If I'm putting something out there, it's because I want people to see it. And conversely, that's what other people are doing too. So people pay attention, your clients pay attention, your colleagues pay attention, even simply a like. And it's really great to let people know that they matter, especially now more than ever.
Agreed. And I want to go back to building your network slowly and purposefully. I feel like there is a very common misconception that LinkedIn should just be strictly professional. And I think that, you know, expanding a little bit into those personal aspects of your life, as Roy mentioned, you know, being on the board of something, volunteering, or even family activities, because people at their core, they want to connect with you on a personal level. And that is incredibly important when building your network. And also I want to emphasize sharing, reciprocating, and celebrating. It is important that you engage on social media. It's not just about friending people and then walking away. Look at people's posts, like them, comment on them. That'll really help you build your network.
And Alex, I know we said we were going to have questions at the end, but we did have one come in that I think is timely. You might have seen it and it might have prompted what you just said, but Kay O'Connor, I don't know your name, but you're Kay O'Connor at FSBR Law. Do you both have separate personal private profiles versus public, or do you use certain channels for public matters and others for private? I think you have to find your own comfort with that. I'm not an attorney by training. I'm not a practicing attorney. So I can understand that there is a greater sensitivity that attorneys might have than marketing people. You can, I don't do this myself. You could say people do this. Facebook is for my personal connections. LinkedIn is for my professional ones. I do think we are seeing a tipping point with both LinkedIn and Facebook where they're going, and Facebook has its challenges, don't get me wrong, but I'm seeing more professional content on Facebook intermixed with the personal, and I'm seeing more human interest on LinkedIn, but by choice. And we'll talk about that here in a second, how you think about that strategically. So I don't know that you need to keep separate channels or accounts. I think it's more about what content you choose to share in which place. I tend to share a lot of personal stuff. I love crazy t-shirts. I get a lot of reaction from the whimsical t-shirts I wear. I'm posting a picture of them. That works for me as a marketing person who has this kind of big tent mentality of have fun with me, let's laugh and joke. I had a LinkedIn picture that was me in a Superman t-shirt. My boss had some issues with that. She thought it wasn't as professional as she would like it to be. So she said, go back to that one with the crazy hair, which I did. And she gave me that feedback in a supportive, collaborative way. Don't get me wrong. But that crazy t-shirt got more traction for me on LinkedIn than the picture with the hair. So you have to think about who you are and your brand. And that's maybe a good transition point to the next slide. And we can come back to your question if we didn't answer it fully. But this next slide talks about the audience and figuring out who you are and how you want to target them. So I think it's a different way of answering your question. I don't know that I'd maintain separate accounts, but I'd think about how am I trying to reach and who am I trying to reach? And the first thing I would do, as old school as it seems, get a whiteboard, get a legal pad, and sit down and go through what are your skills. You don't have to have 1,000 of them. It's not your bio from the website. It's like if you were with your mom or in an elevator and somebody said, what are the 3 things you do really well? Jot those down. What are they? What sets you apart? For me, it's storytelling, it's communication, it's engaging people. That's at least what I think my skills are. And I try to do that with the team at Clark Hill. I try to do that in my professional life. I try to do that in my personal life. Now, what are my interests? My interests are legal marketing professionally, movies, film, the arts, animals, that you said what they were all listed. Those are all things that are in my wheelhouse and places I can connect with others who have shared interests. And then what are my opportunities? Where do I have gaps? For me, 10 years ago with the Legal Marketing Association, it was that I didn't have a network. So I had a strategy, as zany as it was, to go, I'm going to figure out who are the movers and shakers, and I'm going to connect with all of them. And as Alex said really well a minute ago, I'm going to pay attention to what they post, how they conduct themselves, and I'm going to model that for myself. So I had a strategy that started with, here are my strengths, here are the things that I think I'm interested in and others might be interested in. And then how do I align that to have authentic conversation and connection points with people? So I'd first do that for yourself. Take 10, 15 minutes on a weekend after a cup of coffee and jot those things down. Before I go to the next slide, anything you'd add or clarify there, Alex?
No, and I think, this reaching the target audience it does feed into the previous question about having public and private profiles. I think it really depends on what your target market is. If you're comfortable sharing your personal life with your professional connections, I think that that's okay. Otherwise, it's completely up to you. I would say you have to assess that on an individual basis, which leads us to our next slide here. So I just want to preface by saying, I think that people think that there is one right way to use social media. And I think Roy and I are really trying to drive that while there are these fundamental steps that you should take, there isn't one right way to use it. And so here you're going to see my approach to how I use my social profiles and how Roy uses his. So for me, it's really important to have a consistent brand. And what that means is using similar styles of graphics, music, setting a tone that is consistent visually. I also really believe in consistent posting, although I don't always do that for myself. Not on my personal profiles anyway, but
while you said that, Alex posted something the other day and I got an alert that she did so, and I called her. I'm like, you posted. I'm so happy. So sometimes we're the shoemaker's children. We tell you what you should be doing, yes, but we don't always do it.
Do as I say, not as I do. Yeah. So the importance here is that if you're not posting often, the way that most social platforms algorithms work is that you will just disappear. So if people aren't seeing you on their feed at least once a day or, a couple times a week, you'll just get lost in the feed, and then people kind of forget about you unless it's someone that you're close with and you interact with on a daily or regular basis. You're losing that closeness with your connections. Also important for me is selective posting. So I like to really be intentional with my posts. I like to choose content that's meaningful and relatable. And I like to stay relevant in accordance with what people's interests are. So for me, it's just what is going on in the world right now, without taking a political standpoint, just kind of engaging with what the current and hot topics are, and getting the engagement from there. And then last, I like to, as I said previously, be visually oriented. That's my art history background shining through, but it is important for me to use consistent colors and fonts. It's one of those things, and this is speaking about graphics here if you're creating, visual graphics, because it becomes recognizable. So you say, oh, that's part of Alex's brand, or that's part of Clark Hill's brand. And that's incredibly important. It's something that is often overlooked and maybe deemed as like not very important because it's, just the art aspect. But it is that subliminal thing that people do take notice to. So that's important. And I also, as Roy said, I have a dry sense of humor. So I'll just randomly post something.
Her Instagram stories are the best. She probably
Obnoxious.
doesn't want me to out her on that, but they're really good. And on that visual component, if we have any in-house marketers on the call, I think we're going to primarily attorneys listening. We feel your pain. And I guess we'll get to this in a minute. Attorneys, trust your marketers on the visual side. We have a few. We had a gentleman yesterday that came forth with images he wanted to include in an invite that are just not on brand. Don't put him in his best light, but he's a big biller, and he's important and he's influential. And by golly, he thinks his aesthetic is what matters in the client outreach. And he really challenges us as a marketing team. And I'll tell you, it hurts because we're there. Again, I'm for hire. These are not my resources. These are the firm's resources, but I'm trying to steward them properly. And so when your marketing people say, can you please stay with this color, with this font, with this look and feel, they're not doing it to cramp your style. They're doing it so you have your best foot forward. I'm jumping ahead to something we're going to talk about in a minute, but I don't want to lose this point because it's hard for the marketing people. We do get demoralized sometimes when the attorney is like, well, I'm the partner and I think it should be this way, and I'm just going to overrule you. Well, you hired us as marketing people. Alex has an art history background. She was a ballerina. She understands the aesthetic better than I do, and certainly better than many of our attorneys do. Listen to her, because what she's trying to say is you having a common look and feel with your colleagues in other practice areas and things, that overall brand is going to lift all boats. We all admire Disney. We all admire Apple. We all admire these companies that have a strong brand. But when we're in one of those companies and someone's trying to replicate that, we challenge them. Don't do that. If you admire those brands for their consistency, know that people like Alex and I are trying to do that on your behalf. There's my shaming soapbox moment. Now, about me, I'm a nut. I have no boundaries. I don't recommend that for other people. It causes some tension with my husband and myself sometimes. He's like, could you put down that phone, please? But I am always aggressively growing my network. I have a lot of messages I want people to hear across a lot of platforms, Clark Hill primarily, but other organizations. So I need a big audience that I want to reach. So I'm always adding more people. Again, I talked about this a bit ago: celebrate, advocate, reciprocate, enlighten. I try to celebrate what other people are doing first and foremost, because I know then they'll celebrate what I'm doing. So when I see somebody that's done something great, whether I work with them or they're a colleague or they're a fellow volunteer, I share the content, I tag them, I say, look at this person, how great are they? That's related to advocacy. So I share a lot of what my fellow legal marketers are doing because I want to legitimize what we do in the eyes of the people we support. We get challenged a lot. You might have picked up on that in my last little rant. Advocating for us and advocating for my attorneys and advocating for the boards I'm on raises awareness, drives money, drives opportunity. Reciprocate. Again, if someone shares something of mine, I make a mental note, and a week or so later, or a couple of days, I share something of theirs. That means a lot. And if you're in the media relations side, there's always someone like me on the side at law.com or Law 360, and they pay attention. Who gets eyeballs? If you're quoted and your article gets a lot more eyeballs than other articles, they're going to call you again. And then enlighten. Always have a good mindset about helping people. That's really why we're on this planet. The more we can help each other out, the more people will gravitate toward you. It's not giving away legal advice. It's not giving away things you could bill. It's actually just saying, if I'm a helpful person now, imagine what I'm like if you're paying me. Be a Roy Sexton. A friend of mine, Heather Morse, who usually is very, very critical of me, posted a blog entry a few years ago. And when I got the alert, I was like, oh, Lord, what did she say? And I opened it and I was in tears. This isn't a humble brag. It's just, it relates to the previous bullet. It was a new hashtag. It was called Be a Roy Sexton. And I was so touched by this, and it really affected and cemented the approach that I was already taking, because she said, she's in Los Angeles. now in New Orleans, and she had this blog, and she said, every time I post something, Roy shares it with his network. And she put the numbers up. She said, I have more readers in Detroit than I do in Los Angeles because Roy is always there for me as a friend, as a supporter, and a colleague. And then she encouraged everybody else in our profession with this hashtag to do what I do. And I think it did take hold a little bit, and people have made it their own. And I'm proud. One of the things I'm most proud of in this career is that somebody did that. Promote your affiliated organizations. I've probably belabored this, but again, if you're on a board, if you're a part of any organization, share it. Your firm benefits. So when I say I'm part of Ronald McDonald House and Mosaic Youth Theater, there are a lot of people who love those organizations, love them. And they go, wow, we really love that you're involved in the community and you do those things. What law firm do you work for again? Again, having that interrelationship, you never know. Ronald McDonald has so many people they've touched and people whose family members benefited I've been shocked how many people come forward. And that does, not to sound opportunistic, but it does help in terms of business development. And then be a storyteller. I'm a theater guy, so I have an arc that you'll follow. And sometimes I share the bad and the good. And I have people that are like, are you okay? I saw that you posted you were upset yesterday. I'm like, yeah. And I do that because everybody feels upset sometimes and everybody has a bad day. And knowing that I'm not curating just the happiness of my life so other people feel worse that they don't feel happy, every once in a while saying, gosh, I'm having a crappy day, really goes a long way. And that's not exactly what the bullet be a storyteller relates to, but tell your own story and be honest about it. And you will be surprised how many people respond to you.
Okay. So here I'm just going to pause for a minute and let you read through these bullet points, but this is for those of you who do have a marketing team or maybe just one marketing team member. Let them guide you. Roy kind of touched on this earlier. They're there to help you and not to hinder you. So definitely ask them questions. Let them walk you through how to use the social platforms. I spend a large part of my day answering LinkedIn questions, explaining how to repost and share, or maybe someone has been published in an article and they're not sure how to go about promoting that for themselves. And so we're here to help you. We're here to, get your numbers up, help you engage. So yes, definitely utilize them.
Hey, I know you work with this, so these questions are like perfectly timed. Kim Halfley just said, have you found an effective way to make graphic resources for social media easily available for attorneys? Now, here's how I attempted to answer it, Alex, and then I'd love for you to elaborate. If you don't have a marketing team person, Canva is an amazing free app resource that allows you to create graphics, but I don't know their particular situation, if they have somebody or they're kind of on their own. You use Canva. Do you want to talk about that real quickly, what that looks like and how you use it?
Yes, and that is exactly what I was going to say. I love Canva. It's Canva, so it's just canva.com. It's free. The free version has tons of imagery, texts, animations, music. So it's something that you don't need to pay for, which is great. And it has a really easy user interface. So it is, if you have no graphic design experience whatsoever, you can get through it. And if not, when in doubt, just Google it, you'll find the answer. But it does help you create those graphics. And the way it's laid out is very simple. At the top bar, it'll say, what type of post are you looking to do? Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. They're already sized accordingly. So you just have to click on it. They also have pre-designed graphics. So it's something that you can enhance on or just use as is. If you feel like you're not a very creative person, you can sort through the ones that are pre-designed and use those.
Okay, don't move on yet. I'm driving Alex crazy because we said we're going to save questions for the end, but these are all timed where we are. So anonymous attendee. Hello, anonymous attendee. Do you ever have concerns with images and copyright issues? Is there a website recommendation that you use for images? Let me say one thing first, and then Alex can talk about how we handle this. Yes, do not just grab a Google image and use it, particularly on a website or on social media. I got in trouble. I'm telling you this, I shouldn't admit to this. When I was at Kerr Russell, I had a moment where I think it was we had a new opening, an opening for a role, and I found a help wanted image that I thought was copyright free, created a news item for our website. I was a solo marketer back then and kind of doing the best I could day in, day out. And I had it on the news. I had a news item to recruit. And about 6 months later, we got a nasty gram, because there are law firms out there that are making a habit of going into finding images that are violation of copyright, and they send you a really nasty letter, and basically they just want $50 and then you're fine, but they make it sound like they're gonna take you down. So do not just grab an image and assume it's free. There are resources. Canva has graphics you can create within, as Alex mentioned. But Alex, how do you find images when you need them?
Sure. So I actually use Canva. Canva has images that are free for you to recycle, and there are a ton of them. So there's an option to filter for free, and that means that you can download them and share them without copyright issues. When you download something from Canva, it will notify you if you need to pay for it. And so that's what I use for my main resource. You can also use websites like Flickr, Flickr. It's kind of an old school one where they have free images, but I've found that Canva is much more up to date with imagery. And so that's what I would recommend.
Sounds good.
Yep. Okay.
So I'm going to fold in a question on this slide. So Pamela I think she's telegraphing her opinion, even though she signed up for this webinar. She's letting us know how she really feels about these things. She isn't pulling any punches. I readily acknowledge that I'm a social media dinosaur. After I work 10 to 12-hour days, I do not care about social media. And I'm not making fun of you, Pamela. This is something we hear all the time.
No, I feel that. That's
yeah, right.
I
Alex feels that. I'm on it all the time. What is the best way to use, so don't feel ashamed, what is the best way to use social media to create a brand, reach out to potential clients with little effort? I spend the rest of my time doing charitable work, and social media is on the bottom of that list. And Pamela, I think that's completely fair. And let me transition to this quote, and then I'll come back to your question. Thought leadership. And that, thanks, Pamela. And we appreciate your candor, because if we don't talk about this stuff, we can't get better at things. And I think you can have a big impact with minimal time, to be honest with you. I don't spend as much time on social media as it seems, and I'll tell you how in a minute. But thought leadership. Now, some people are very, very strict about this. They're like, write an article and it must be different than anything else that anybody's done before. I see thought leadership as much broader than that. Thought leadership is a type of content marketing where you tap into the talent, experience, and passion inside your business or from your community to consistently answer the biggest questions on the minds of your target audience on a particular topic. It's not pedigree. It's not where you went to school. Thought leadership means you provide the best and deepest answers to your customers' biggest questions in formats your audience likes to consume. In formats your audience likes to consume. So what I find a lot of attorneys do is they're like, I wrote this 30-page article. Now make everybody see it. Well, you put all your time into writing that big article. You didn't need to do that. You could either share other people's content with a brief quote that would save the hours you wrote writing that alert or article and have a bigger impact than going into all that trouble. So if you think about the time you do spend in a given day, you feel like you don't have time for social media, but you could pull back on other things. My mom used to say this, I'm snapping my fingers to keep the elephants away. There are no elephants. And she'd go, it's working. Attorneys have a tendency to do that. My first law firm sent chocolates and Oscars out every February. And they said, that's how my clients stick with us. I go, if your clients are only sticking with you because you're sending chocolates and Oscars, we have a bigger problem. I hope they're getting value out of the money they spend with you. And when they get the chocolate or the Oscar, they're like, it's nice. But the truth of the matter is attorneys will spend a lot of time on stuff they think they have to keep doing that really aren't making a big difference. And again, formats your audiences like to consume. So Pamela, when you're like, I don't have time for this, you probably do. If you put LinkedIn as an app on your phone, and you might say, well, I don't like having things on my phone. What's a different problem? But if you have LinkedIn as an app on your phone, real easy. When you're waiting in line for your Starbucks, pull it up. You're standing there doing nothing. You might be looking at email. If you're at a kid's softball game and you're bored, pull up LinkedIn. There are 5-10 minute increments in all of our days where we go, I'm bored, or my husband's watching something on Bravo that is tedious, so I'm going to pull up LinkedIn. Just scroll through. You don't have to know the universe of things. Again, attorneys are like, I have to know everything before I comment. No, whatever happens to pop up in your news feed, if you see some clients and people you're trying to develop relationships with, if all you do, Pamela, is like a couple things and go, I saw that, congratulations on your job, you're using social media just fine. Now, Pamela, if you have an article, if you've written something, I bet you have, you should just share that on social media because you took the time to write it, or you're taking the time to do your community charity work. I bet your charity has a listing of you on their website, or sometimes puts out an annual report, or might put out a picture of you packing food for kids in need. Post that on your social media. That's all we're talking about. It takes 30 more seconds. You are already there doing the thing. Just keep it in the back of your mind as a channel at your disposal that you don't have to wait on anybody else to tell your news. You get to tell it first. And again, if you have 5 minutes here or there in the day, just take a look and see what people do. And that's all. If all you take away from this is that, and by the way, have a picture on your LinkedIn. If you don't, please have a picture. That's it. You don't need to do a lot more. We're like the Whitman sampler of things you could do. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. Don't feel you have to do them all. If all you have time for is 3 or 4 minutes a day or every couple of days, just put the app on your phone and take a look. Alex, do you think that's a fair thing to say?
Yes, and I'd like to add to that my recommendation, because this is something that is a concern for many attorneys and something that is brought up to us often. The app is key. That way you don't have to sit down on a computer and log in and take that extra time. Share other people's posts. So for example, if you're volunteering at an organization who has a LinkedIn profile or a Facebook profile, just simply share what they've done and say, hey, I'm a part of this. This is what we did. And so that right there is engagement that, like Roy said, takes 30 seconds.
And Lee Ryman, TriStar Trust, you wrote unsplash. I don't know what that means. So if you have a question related to that, or that was a comment, feel free to elaborate, because I don't know, I don't know what that means, but thank you. All right, moving on.
Okay.
Oh, royalty-free pictures. Unsplash for royalty-free pictures. Thank you. We got a tip. Unsplash. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I've never heard of that one either.
Thank you, Lee.
Yeah, wow. We learned something today. Wow. Okay.
Getting value.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. So yes, maximizing value and generating content. So this is how you generate content that you will get the most out of. Okay, so Roy just mentioned targeted thought leadership. We've already discussed refining your social media strategy. Next, we have the website. So this is a great and easy way to share your firm or colleagues' work or your own work. So for example, if someone on your team, or if you wrote something and it's posted on your website, or if it's something that the firm did, just share that link, share a link that takes them back to the website. And then you're kind of getting a 2-for-1. So someone has looked at your profile and then you're driving people back to the website. Next, video webinars, podcasts, and graphics. So we already touched a little bit on graphics, but these visual components are important as well. So for me, and I think, the data will show that successful posts have some sort of visual component accompanying the text. So if you're going to post on LinkedIn and it's just 3 sentences with no graphics, there's nothing there to really catch someone's eye. So as you're scrolling through a feed that has like hundreds of, videos and graphics, what makes yours stand out to catch someone's eye rather than, just some sentences? So if you have done any video, any webinars, and here's a quick thing you can do with webinars. You've seen Roy taking pictures, and someone may not like it if it's something that's not supposed to be shared, but I say just do it and ask for forgiveness later, is to take a photo of
It's a
that
Friday.
webinar.
Woo!
Take a photo of the webinar and share that still and just be like, hey, here's me presenting on this topic, because, that way, if you can't share the whole webinar, or if it's behind a paywall, you at
Yeah.
least have a graphic to
Well,
accompany.
and to Pam's point, you've already created the material. Pamela, I don't know that you go by Pam. I'm sorry about that. You're already creating the opportunity and the material. And if you're uncertain about what to take a picture of, there's always, I did take a picture of like our two faces together and the title slide. That's always safe. You know, there's nothing particularly unusual about that material, and that can be enough. And you go, look, I did a thing.
Yes. Podcasts, if you host a podcast, this is, sharing those with a link back to your podcast is an excellent way to add visual content, or audio visual, I should say. And then finally, we have public relations. So Roy mentioned this previously. If you've already done the work to write an article, share that. That's generating content that you've already done 99% of the work on, and all you have to do is upload that link and click share.
Exactly. Or if you're quoted in something, make it easy. And on that note, this is not really what we're here to do. If you're fortunate enough to have an in-house marketing person and they have some media chops, let them know if there are topics that you want to speak to. Again, if busy attorneys don't have time to write articles, I don't like writing articles anymore. I'm reached a certain point in my life. I'm like, ugh, but I'm out there enough. If somebody calls me and they're a reporter, they're like, I'd like to talk to you about this. You get a quote in there. And it took 20 minutes to talk to the reporter. But by the way, be available when the reporter wants you, because otherwise they move on. I hate it when I get a media lead from my attorneys and they're like, well, I need to research this and I'll be back to you in 3 days. And then 6 weeks go by. And then they're like, did anything happen with that article? I'm like, that reporter wrote that article and it's gone, and they moved on. They don't have time to wait around. So if you're going to play the media game, it can actually gain you time because you're not writing a full article, but you got to be available. And again, share that once it happens. So.
Okay, so our final few slides, we're going to provide an overview of each of the 4 main social platforms. So we'll start with LinkedIn. That's going to be the most beneficial to you as attorneys. So I found this article from the American Lawyer, Why Law Firms Are Leaning More on LinkedIn for Marketing and Branding. And this is an article that was put out about a year ago, so right in the thick of the pandemic. And they've noticed LinkedIn has seen a massive uptick in usage from law firms specifically. So most social media platforms, especially just any online platform, of course, received an uptick in usage because everyone was working from home or, working remotely. But this is specifically from law firms. And why is that? 2 reasons: thought leadership, which Roy discussed earlier, and demand generation. So thought leadership, lawyers are targeting a specific audience. So this is finding your target audience and promoting their practice to create brand awareness. So this is everything that we've covered up until this slide. And then the demand generation is providing the user with an opportunity to seek out quality leads from potential clients. So here on the right, we have some tips to create more engagement on LinkedIn. These are kind of, once you read through them, you'll realize that they're a little, self-explanatory or common sense. Post between 8 and 11 a.m. This is before people get to work, before they're settled in. We've also found that the lunch hour is a great time to post because people are stopping and taking a break. And then again in the evening, those are your peak times to post, generally speaking. And I'll let you read, I won't read every single one of these, but these are some ways that you can enhance your LinkedIn experience. So we also won't name every single one of these bullet points here, but if you are not yet a LinkedIn user, or if you have a very basic profile that you haven't really taken the time to build out, these are some fundamental pieces of information that you can use to build out your profile. As Roy mentioned before, definitely have a professional photo. That's probably the most basic thing that you can do aside from having a proper headline. So what do I look like and what do I do? those, if nothing else, if nothing else, have those. Definitely your title and position, your city, or even just having the state if you don't feel comfortable. The great thing about LinkedIn is there are a lot of ways to keep keep information private, so that you don't have to share every single thing about yourself.
And the only other note I would make on this one, we don't have it shown, but there's a section called endorsements. The Bar Association has some strict rules around endorsements and skills. They don't want legal skills listed there. You can list other skills like gymnastics and basket weaving, and I don't know what else, leadership. But if you put a legal skill in that section and people upvote, it's seen as an endorsement, which is a no-no in the Bar Association rules. So if you have legal skills, save those for your summary portion of your profile.
Okay, Roy will give you some quick facts about Twitter and Facebook.
And I know we're getting close to time because I'm a jabberjaw, but we want to leave a little time for any other questions you might have. Twitter and Facebook, we often hear, well, okay, should I do those too? If you're already feeling a bit overwhelmed with the LinkedIn thing, don't worry about these other platforms. LinkedIn is sufficient. If you're nutty like I am, you're going to be on all the things, even Pinterest. But fun fact, I get more visits on my movie review blog from Pinterest than anything else. Don't know why, but I do. Twitter is the bit of the Wild West. It can be dicey. I think we've seen people get in a bit of a trouble on Twitter because they get a little too cutesy or provocative. Don't do that. Twitter can be great if you're at a conference and there's a hashtag dedicated to the conference and you want to meet other people and you're sharing content, you're kind of tracking and seeing what people are doing. If you do have a blog or a podcast, it's a great way to drive traffic to something like that because it is not contained to your own network. With the use of a right hashtag, like let's say it's legal marketing, we hashtag legal marketing. And so anybody who's interested in that will find my content related to that if they do a search. So, but you don't need to be on it if you don't want to be. Facebook is certainly, I think, for a lot of people, a great way for they stay connected with high school friends and family and other people of that nature. So, keep doing what you're doing there. But if you feel like it and your firm has a page, we do, go through and share the content that might be softer, that might be fun for your audience, but always let the audience know that you work there or you're an attorney there. Again, I think it's one of your ethics rules that you always let people know you're an attorney if you're sharing content from your Facebook page. We find that the stuff that gets the best resonance on Facebook is stuff about our culture, videos, things like that. So we use it for that purpose.
Okay. Instagram, I would say, is, well, I love Instagram. I love the way that it functions. I think it's one of the most unique social platforms that are out there. That being said, it's probably the least important for you as an attorney. I think, for an organization as a whole, it could be really great. It's excellent for event promotion. There's an opportunity to post stories, pin those stories so that people can go back and refer to them in real time, and you can pin them and keep them permanently. As I mentioned earlier, increasing organization or company brand awareness. It also has one of the most unique algorithms called the score of interest. So Instagram actually has several algorithms, and the way it works is based off of engagement. So we talked about that a lot and how it's important. This is key for using this platform. If you aren't active on Instagram, actively liking or sharing or commenting, those profiles will disappear from your feed and you'll notice, hey, I haven't seen this person post in a while. It's because you don't engage with them. And so that's really a unique and great way to increase visibility and sales because you're constantly staying engaged with these profiles. So that brings us to the end. Does anyone have?
We did it. We even left a little time at the end.
We have 5 minutes.
Any additional questions? I know we were answering them through. And Pamela, our new groupie, she said Roy and Alexandra, comma. Maybe there's more to come.
Yes. Well, let's see.
Okay, we're waiting for that, Pamela. Maybe there's a compliment. Maybe she's just like, I love you both, Roy and Alexandra. We'll see. Any other questions that folks have? Oh, Stephanie. Oh, Steven, sorry. Thanks so much. That was fantastic. Matt has a question. Okay. Oh, I got to go to Q&A. Oh, Luke. We have one from Luke, and I'll come back to Matt. Do you have any advice on LinkedIn summaries? I never know how much to put, kind of like salt with cooking. I love you, Luke. Alex led a project in our team where we redid our bios on the website, and in so doing also helped kind of give people a little guidance on their LinkedIn summaries with a headline. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Alex?
Sure. Let me just read. I was reading Matt, so let me go
Oh,
back
okay.
to this.
Sorry.
Oh, yes. So there are kind of three things to look at here. What we did for our headlines is we said no more than 3 sentences. So it should be a super concise summary of who you are. So what do I practice? Who do I work for? So what is my client base? And then any other extras you want to throw in there. So you could say, I assist real estate clients with X, Y, and Z, and then keep that, very specific. We also recommend not just listing a bunch of different clients or types of industries because no one wants to read a super long list of things. But 2 to 3 sentences of exactly what your practice consists of is sufficient.
That's good. Okay, now to Matt's question. I'm having issues sharing on LinkedIn. A specific group I want to share to doesn't show up. Any reason why? And that's Matt Hinkle, who, thank you, Matt, he was helping us actually set things up. It is likely, not knowing, and you and I, if you want to talk offline, Matt, I can take a look at the group. Certain groups have privacy settings in different ways. I find LinkedIn groups aggravating, to be honest with you. Facebook does a lot of things wrong. They do groups a lot better because they create an engaging back and forth platform. If it's not a private group, it's very easy to see the alerts and to comment. LinkedIn groups, they've added this little bell on profiles that you want to make sure you hear from when they post, and so you can click that. I don't know that they have that yet for groups, so you don't always get the notifications in groups. Sometimes people share to groups and it doesn't show up. And it could be because the moderators have the privacy settings set in such a way, either they're moderating the posts and they're not doing a good job moderating, so they're sitting in a parking lot and they haven't been approved to be released, or some other quirk is going on. So Matt, I'm happy to talk to you better, but I guess generally for people, if you're having trouble with groups on LinkedIn, you ain't alone. And chances are it's because of the privacy setting or the way things have been created. Adam Fisher, as in-house marketer, this is a great presentation. Thank you, Adam. That means a lot. You're in the trenches with us. I like reading the compliments because it makes us feel good. But I would offer, we're both on LinkedIn. We would love to be connected with you, and we love to help. So if any of you, based in this conversation, or things that maybe you weren't comfortable asking publicly, feel free to reach out to either of us, and either we will know the answer or we can connect you to somebody we know that does know the answer. And I want to, looks like one more message came in. I want to thank Charlie. Thank you, Madeline. Madeline, thank you. And thank you, Charlie, for inviting us. And Matt Hinkle, thank you for your help getting us all situated. How do people connect with you? Well, I am going to, while we're still live, I'm going to drop my LinkedIn URL into the chat. I meant to do that a minute ago and didn't do it. But I'm Roy E. Sexton on LinkedIn. You'll find me. You've seen my wingy haircut, so you know what that looks like. And Alexandra France on LinkedIn. That might be the best way, at least to start. I am also on all the platforms and have what they call an open network. So my Facebook posts are public. My Instagram's public. Everything is public for me. So you're welcome to follow and share anything I have. Again, I'm on Pinterest. Anybody who's interested in that. And Tumblr. I'm still on Tumblr. Alex is like, I'm sure you are. I am not on TikTok. MySpace. Yeah, I'm not on MySpace. I'm not there. But we can, I'm trying to, I should have thought to do that.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't find my handle, but yes, it's just my full name, Alexandra France, on LinkedIn.
We are the shoemaker's children. We should have, people do that. They put their little QR code in and they're like, please connect with me. And I'm just like, oh, you type in my name, you'll find me. All right, well, there's me for anybody that's left. Alex, I'll see if I can find you. But so yeah, if there aren't any other questions, I think that's everything we had. So thank you for having us today. And again, feel free to reach out for anything that you might need.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.